Over the past 6 months or so, Cuba has undergone an unprecedented energy crisis. Just over the past 4 days, most Cubans have had zero electricity. Chief Correspondent Matt Gutman spoke with Cuba's ambassador to the UN, Ernesto Soberón Guzman, about the challenges his country faces.
Ernesto, how bad is this energy crisis right now in Cuba?
Well, Matt, thank you very much for having us here and to give us this opportunity. The Cuban people is suffering a collective punishment. This is the only way that I can describe what my people is suffering right now.
Because of the U.S. oil blockade and general blockade on the island.
Our main challenge today is the lack of oil. And the lack of oil is a direct result of the executive order signed by President Trump on January 29, 2026. So the lack of oil has a huge humanitarian impact in the daily life of the Cuban people.
Give me an example.
Well, for example, in the health sector, we have more than 100,000 people in a waiting list for surgery just because the lack of oil. We have the doctors, we have the nurses, but we have the hospital, but we don't have oil.
Meaning you can't even turn on the lights to be able to shine on surgery.
It means that even when they are making surgeries, they have to finish with the light of the cell phone because the power is off.
That's surgery by cell phone.
Surgery by cell phone, you know? And people waiting for surgery because they have not enough power to do all the surgery that we need. 12,000 of these people are children. 32,000 women, pregnant women, waiting for an ultrasound. The rate of the Cuban, the infant mortality rate in Cuba a few years ago was around 4 per 1,000 newborns. Right now,
4 deaths per 100,000.
For 1,000.
4 for 1,000.
4 for 1,000. Now it's around 10 deaths for 1,000. So it's almost a double. So that means...
And you're saying that's a direct cause?
This is a direct cost of this policy, but also is a direct cost of the policy of the blockade. Because it's not the lack of oil. It is also that we have right now around 7,000 containers in Caribbean ports ready to go to Cuba. And no shipping company wants to take that. And there are some resources that we need in the hospital, some medical things that we need in the hospital that they cannot arrive in Cuba because the blockade.
You mean so there are actually containers ready to be handed out to the public, sitting in ports in Cuba, but there isn't enough fuel to be able to power the machines and the vehicles to get them to the people who need the aid right now?
Right. In that case, we have around more than the last number that the UN system mentioned was around 1,700 containers, which around 6.5 million in humanitarian aids that are already in the Cuban ports, and we are not able to transport that to the final destination because of the lack of oil.
The UN has said that they need fast and well-resourced humanitarian action right now. How close do you think Cuba is to the brink?
No, we are a very resilient people. The point here is that the U.S. government has the right to have or not have bilateral trade with Cuba. They have the right to sell or not sell oil to Cuba. But the U.S. government has not the right to impose sanctions to third companies, to third countries, to sell oil to Cuba. So we are doing a lot in order to overcome this situation. We are increasing our oil production. We are changing, we are implementing economic measures to transform our economic system, you know?
Yesterday, the State Department announced new sanctions, new people who are being targeted within the Cuban regime. And at this point, Secretary Rubio is not mincing words. He said, what we're trying to teach them is that there is no or are no escape valves, Rubio told Axios. Do you think that the U.S. is planning and preparing an invasion? Is that where this blockade and the restrictions and the targeting of certain individuals, of many individuals in Cuba, is that where this is leading?
Yes. First of all, I completely agree that they are looking for a pretext to have a military aggression against Cuba.
A pretext for military aggression.
Which will be a huge mistake, because first of all, we are ready to fight back. But secondly, they know very well that we have some other options instead to have a military aggression. But coming back to the sanctions, it shows the unhealthy obsession of the Secretary of State with Cuba. You know, they have been sanctioned Cuban people every 10 days, every 2 weeks. Just 10 days ago, they sanctioned the Ministry of Health. They sanctioned the Ministry of Tourism. So they are trying to create a social discouragement in Cuba that gives them the pretext for a military aggression against Cuba.
Before I let you go, the administration will say, and has said, in fact, yesterday, that Cuba and activists who are working with Cuba are actively planning and plotting against the United States, essentially accusing the Cuban government of terrorism against the U.S.
It's false. This is part of this process that they have been implementing, or this policy that they have been implementing to find a pretext. Cuba has been saying many times that we are ready to talk and to work together with the U.S. and with the U.S. government. We have a lot of opportunity in terms of investment, in terms of business, in terms of combating drug trafficking, in terms of combating the illegal migration. All of those opportunities are beneficial not only for Cuba, but also for the U.S. companies and the U.S. citizens. So
what you're saying is that Cuba is willing to talk, but the U.S. is reluctant to talk. It wants to squeeze Cuba into submission.
Exactly. We have been saying that many times, that nothing that we do is enough for the Secretary of State. You know, we have been changing. We implemented 176 economic measures just a few weeks ago that mainly increase the role of the private sector in the Cuban economy, which opens a lot of opportunities for American companies and American citizens. But they refuse to move on this direction.
Hopefully we'll get to continue this conversation. Ernesto Soberón, UN Ambassador from Cuba, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.